My name's Stacia Demos Mills, and I am a longtime Broad Ripple, Butler, Tarkington neighbor, resident, lawyer, and I've been in practice for 20 years, which is hard to believe I've been doing anything for 20 years. But I love my work, and I'm excited to join my friend Sarah to share some information with y'all.
Hey guys, Sarah McClammer, also an estate planning attorney, live in Meridian Kessler, just moved my office to Meridian Kessler, so I never have to leave. I'm always here. Been practicing over 10 years and been doing estate planning for the last 6 years. So thanks for watching. We're just gonna go through some questions, hopefully just give a broad overview about estate planning, some general questions you might have, and just help calm fears and give you information during this crazy, hectic time. So, Stacia, you ready to get started?
I'm ready to start, and I love that you emphasize that this is for purposes of just promoting, promoting your own peace of mind. It's not intended to be perpetuated by any sort of fear. We just want you to have information to be equipped for you and your family and the people that you love. So that's why we're here.
Exactly. And I think we don't want to come from a place of fear and tell you that something bad is going to happen if you don't have these documents in place. It's simply if you have questions, if you have concerns, hopefully this can help.
Yeah, well, for most families, young families that I work with, that guardianship question is the biggest, most paralyzing question of all, even beyond where stuff goes. It was for me. And so that question almost immediately pops to the forefront first. How does this work? What happens if something happens to me or my co-parent? What happens to my little one in that case? And so we always encourage you to name a preferred guardian or guardians for any of your minor kids or kids that are over 18 but have a guardian of their own if they have any special needs or disabilities. We encourage you to do that because you get to pick. You get to name your preference for who will serve in this role. Sometimes that's one person, sometimes that's a couple. And whenever you're talking to an estate planning lawyer, and Sarah, you can speak to this too, you kind of have to brace yourself for the series of really catastrophic what-if questions. So it's a giant exercise in what-if questions. But for guardians, you think about, okay, who would I want to serve? If they're a couple, what if one of them didn't survive? Would you want the survivor to serve individually, or
if they get divorced?
If they get divorced, then who would you to serve as the primary custodian in that case? Or would you then want your little ones to be elsewhere? And those are huge questions, right? Like to think about uprooting a little one and huge questions. But we do ask you to think about those things in naming guardians. So you name your preferred guardians in your will. And then Sarah, I don't want to talk over you, but maybe you can talk a little bit about what happens let's say after you and your co-parent pass and the need for a guardian to be appointed happens, like procedure looks like.
Yeah, so it's a court process always, and so the judge has the final say. The judge must and will take into account the preference that you named in your will. By law, the judge has to take that into account, but he or she is also taking into account a lot of other factors, including, what's in the best interest of the child. So if that preferred guardian lives abroad or lives across the country and the rest of the family is here, I mean, those factors come into play. I usually tell parents that if those named guardians are good people, they're willing and able to take
without felonies helps.
Yes, no felonies. If they're willing and able to take your children, there would have to be something bigger going on for the court not to name those individuals
Correct.
as guardian.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
just tell people it's not a given. It's not just a snap your fingers, put the kids on an airplane and away they go.
Right.
It's a bit of a process.
It
But
is. And I
you had talked about the standby guardian form that you used for clients, and we do as well. Do you want to talk through what that looks like?
is a inevitable lag time when a person passes between their passing and the court's appointment of a guardian over a minor child. So what the standby guardian declaration does is that it fills that gap of time in between a person's death or incapacity and the point at which a court issues a permanent guardianship order. So let's say, for the purposes of this week's chaotic conversation, that a person is hospitalized with the coronavirus and they are temporarily incapacitated. They're in the hospital and they're a single parent. The standby guardian declaration would immediately, upon your incapacity, give the person that you have named in that document the legal authority to do whatever is needed for your kids with respect to school or healthcare, the things that you do as parent, with a few exceptions. You can't consent to their marriage or adoption, which is good. But it fills that gap. And that has been of huge comfort to families, especially right now, knowing that that's something you can do. I prepare that document a lot also for families who are parents are thinking about running off on a travel adventure, and they want to make sure that they have.
Let's talk about a trust for kids that we can create. I'm sure you do the same, but if there are minor children, within the last will and testament, we can set up a trust to benefit the kiddos with assets from the parents. So talk about sort of what that looks like, what the choices are there, and just sort of how that works in the real world.
Sure, yeah, and you can chime in here too, but if a child is a beneficiary under an estate plan and there is not a trust in place for them to hold assets for their benefit, then they are legally entitled to receive the full amount of those assets when they turn 18. And you might have had far better judgment than I when you were 18.
No.
I would have been sound financial decisions at all. And so I think that the term trust has a lot of loaded connotations. I understand why. My kid is here. Say hello, Silas.
Hi.
Hi.
Just getting a piece of gum. I'm sorry.
We're going to do this in a different room next time.
Probably. Yeah.
Speaking of children.
I can probably edit that out. Or leave it in.
So,
It'll be fun.
Let's rewind. Bloop, bloop, bloop. So a trust is a fancy way of saying essentially an account that is set up for the benefit of your kids after you should pass. If you have more than one child, sometimes it's one account, sometimes it's called a pot trust. It's one big pot for your children, and distributions can be made out of it by a person called the trustee, for your kids' health, education, welfare, which includes anything that you would spend money on now, whether that's, extracurricular activities or school shoes or healthcare, whatever it might be. And then your trustee, you get to direct the intervals at which distributions are made. And there is a myriad of ways that you can craft these. And Sarah, you might want to talk a little bit about how you craft some of the language in trust. Like, do you do this at different ages, upon different life events? It's not uniform for me. It's not for you too.
No, what we do is we have like our sort of suggested terms that then clients can completely customize. In my experience, clients have never seen these documents before. So they're like, I don't know what this looks like. Can you suggest stuff? And so we just have like our basic language. And off the top of my head, I think our basic language spreads out distributions until the child turns 30. So I think there's like a lump sum at 25 or when they finish college, and then again at 30. And that's just lump sums. And then in the meantime, the trustee is directed to pay for things like school, vacation, like you said, health, education, and maintenance, which is very broad. And so, but then, some parents put stipulations on, when they can receive money. Some, if the states are larger, if the trust balance is going to be larger, you can spread that out even further. I think, I've spread it out as far as like age 50.
Right. And it also depends on the beneficiary and if they're, when you have a little bit better of a sense as to their financial ability, or if there is someone, if you have a child or a grandchild who might have creditors or debt out there.
Yeah. And again, if you have a child with special needs, these trusts can essentially shelter these assets from consideration for needs-based public benefits. So if your kiddo,
it's a huge thing.
It's a huge thing. So this money is safe and protected, and the kiddo can still receive those benefits that are calculated based on their income or asset level, like Medicaid.
Yes. And what a gift to them that they can still have those additional resources available to them for qualified disability expenses for their benefit. That's a huge thing.
Well, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching, everyone. We hope we provided some level of comfort or at least information during this crazy time. So again, I'm Sarah McClammer. Hopefully the contact information is displaying on the bottom of the screen so you can contact us, but feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to answer more specific questions that you have.
We would, and thank you, Sarah, for having me join you. And I'm Stacia Demos Mills. I'm so glad that we had this conversation. I hope it's helpful to all of you. And boy, do we just wish all of you and yours all of the peace and courage that you need during these days. And either Sarah or I are happy to act as a resource to you or connect you as needed. I feel like both Sarah and I believe that our work is as much of a calling as it is a vocation. So
that's right. Invite you to, any legal question you have, we'll at least direct you to the right person if we can't answer that. I think both of us do that. We know a lot of attorneys.
That we do.
Fortunately, unfortunately. But anyway, well, thanks everyone.
Thank you. Be well.
Bye.